Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Inside Lines podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson.
And I am Tia Averill.
Coming up a bit later in the show, we'll be chatting with Melissa Gonzalez, principal at MG2 and founder of the Lioness group. We'll also be getting into our hot take this week, where we'll be sharing our take on the current feud between Jalen Rose and his sister. But first, Tia, what's going on?
Girl, nothing much. I had a pretty good low-key week. There's a bunch of wildfires in the Seattle area. And so like all of the kids' outdoor activities was canceled. So we had a nice like chill weekend, got to catch up on my to-do list. We went and checked out Coach Lenny Wilkins. So he does a lot of philanthropy throughout the city, but what is near and dear to his heart is the Odessa Brown Clinic, which serves like underprivileged communities. And they opened up a second clinic in South Seattle and named the basketball court after him. So we went to his dedication and just chilled, and it's a nice low-key weekend. How about you, Toy? How was your weekend?
My weekend was good as well. What did I do? Well, I went to Usher for 24 hours. I flew to Vegas to celebrate a friend and had a blast, came back. All three of my kids had sports. So Mia played volleyball. Their team won. Nate and Nehemiah's team played against a really good team that was undefeated and ranked top in the state. They beat them. Nate had he had 3 catches for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Come on, somebody. I know that's right.
I was so happy and so proud of him. Long time coming. And Nehemiah is still doing it in the DNs. He's sacking and tipping, and he's doing his thing. So it's a busy time. It's a fun time. And I'm just grateful I didn't miss it. I had fun with Usher, but I had so much more fun with my kids.
I know that's right. And granted, that is an amazing show.
Oh, it's amazing. He knows how to. He has so many cuts that just you forget how many he has. And I was just blown away. I was singing like I was a little kid again. It was great. It's good times.
He's a true performer. So you're going to get a full out production.
Yes.
So that's nice. And Burleson gang was in the sports killing it.
Yes, my girl she was serving overhand, had her aces going. Finally, we got them together. So it was a fun weekend. I'm just so glad I got back in enough time to witness it all, because I would have been devastated if I didn't.
Missing all that goodness. I know that's right.
All right, enough about that. Let's get into this week's hot takes. All right, it's time for this week's hot takes. Tia, what we got?
All right, so this week in hot takes, we are discussing former NBA player and current sports analyst Jalen Rose. So I don't know if you saw this, Atoya, but Jalen is in the midst of some family drama. His sister posted a video on social media where she was trying to put him on blast, as he walked through the house. But apparently what is going on is, so he bought a house for his mom. It didn't say how long ago, but the sister had been living with the mom since 2018, taking care of her. But she passed away in February of 2021 from cancer. And so in the video, the sister is she's in the video and she's, putting the camera on Jalen as he takes who appears to be a realtor or something through the house. And she's he knows I'm sick. I'm fighting ailments, so I can't work. And I took care of him growing up, and I took care of our mom. He's an idiot. This is your hero kind of stuff, right? Girl, an understatement. But I have a question for you, Toya. Do you think, given, she said, she took care of him growing up, she took care of their mom as she was getting sick and older and things of that nature, do you think Jalen is wrong for trying to kick his sister out of the house?
Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this, I think about Jalen, and I think about all the NFL players that we've seen go through this. They owe nobody anything. They are the ones sacrificing their bodies. They're the ones doing everything out there on that field. And I am so tired of family members making them think that these players owe them something. These players like he bought that home for his mother. His mother is now gone. It is not for her. She was in that home with her mom taking care of her mother, but that was still not her home. Where was your home before that? That's number one. Number two, you don't take care of people and you don't do things in love. The problem is people do things with the expectation of receiving something back.
On the back end. And
that is not okay. If from the parent standpoint, for parents in the NFL, if you have kids, you chose to bring those kids in this world. They don't owe you anything. It's your responsibility to take them and provide for them and to love them and to get them to the place where they can be the best person they can possibly be. If they do become who they become, millionaires, they still don't owe you anything. Now, if they choose to do for you, great. But don't expect anyone to do anything for you. That's how I feel. Tell me what you think.
So I agree. And to be, I don't even know where people get audacity from, right?
Child.
And honestly, it starts when you're young, right? So you get the kids playing in Little League baseball, Pee Wee football, the Pee Wee basketball and stuff. From the moment they start dribbling the ball or throwing the ball or hitting the ball, people tell them that, oh yeah, when you get older, you're gonna take care of me. When you make it in the league, when you do this, that, and the third, you're gonna buy me a house, you're gonna buy me a car. Oh, this is the house I want when you get older. And starting that young, it's like ingrained in these entertainers, professional players in their head, right? So then when they get older, it's like this pressure that's sitting on them where they feel like, okay, I have to do everything in my power to take care of all these people who have been ingrained in it. And that's not right to me.
It's not right. They end up broke and miserable and have mental health issues. It's so sad what they're doing. It's terrible.
Yeah. I hate that they even have to experience that, right? So like they already have to deal with the possibility of being cut or not making it or whatever. And like people forget that that's their dream, right? Like most of them don't even have a backup plan, right? So like worrying about the stress associated with that, but then to now also worry about having to financially take care of a slew of family members, like that's not fair. And of course, you and I both know players who have like experienced an extreme level of guilt or whatever because they haven't been able to do that, even though it's hanging over their head. So that this whole situation is annoying.
It is so annoying. And I feel like parents have to remember, even when your child makes it, you're still the parent. There's no role reversal here. The child is not supposed to take care of the parent. You are still the parent. You still parent, period.
I mean, there will be a time where the roles reverse, but don't do it prematurely.
Yeah, just because the person has money.
Exactly.
That's ridiculous.
It is a whole mess. And then I was sitting there wondering, I'm like, okay, so even if she did move in with the mom to take care of her, for those 4 years that you have been living there, I'm sure you didn't pay for anything. You didn't pay any bills. You didn't pay any electricity. Any of that kind of stuff, right? So it's kind of like, okay, this is our mom. Our mom needs these things. I will provide this. You provide that. And we're even, so it's not like he's indebted in you because you did this thing. So
absolutely. Y'all let us know what you think. Y'all tell us how y'all feel. Do you guys think that it's NFL players or NBA players or anybody that makes it, quote unquote, successfully? Is it their responsibility to take care of family members in general? Parents, sisters, brothers. Y'all let us know what y'all think.
Second cousin, first cousins, the whole nine.
Friends from middle school. I done heard it all.
Girl, leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/insidelines or leave us a comment below.
Yes. Okay. That's it for this week's Hot Take. Coming up next, our conversation with Melissa Gonzalez. On the heels of Fashion Week coming to an end, I had to have one more fashion creative and innovator from the New York City area. Meet Melissa Gonzalez, founder of the Lioness Group and principal at MG2 Studio. Melissa and her team have pioneered cutting-edge technologies, helping companies such as Tempo, Nordstrom, and Burrow, to name a few. And she has produced more than 200 brick and mortar experiences across the country. I'm sure some of y'all have been there before. When she's not recording podcasts or dreaming up innovative retail spaces, Melissa can be found seeking inspiration in unexpected places like skydiving from 10,000 feet. I would like to welcome Melissa Gonzalez to the show. Melissa, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Okay, let's just start with the skydiving because that is crazy.
I know, that's what I was about to say. How long have you been skydiving?
Yes.
Well, I don't do it as much now that I try to be a responsible mother, but it was actually my dad who got me into it because he's a licensed skydiver. And he, the first time I jumped with him, I had broke up with a boyfriend. This was in college, so 20 plus years ago. And I was like, I just need to let go of this relationship, Dad. And he's like, let's jump out of a plane. So
that's
it was cathartic.
And such a bonding moment for you and Dad. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you left him
fun.
far away.
Him. Exactly. Yeah. It is an amazing thing. There's like this disconnect, even if you're afraid of heights, your mind and body aren't connecting what's actually happening when you're that far up in the air because you don't see the ground. So it's an interesting sensation. I recommend it.
Are you licensed?
I'm not licensed. My dad's licensed. So I don't only do tandem, but I've done some backflips out of the plane. And the reason why I don't want to get licensed, because I don't trust myself. The first jump, I forgot to pull the cord, and the guy I was going tandem with was tapping me. So I was like, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, fair enough. So when you're coming down, I know you said you don't see the ground. Does it all of a sudden just appear and you're out of nowhere?
It does appear because you're in free fall for a minute. And that's when, your skin's going back and you're at high velocity and everything. And so that is one sensorial moment. And then when you transition to pull the cord, then the speed stops and it actually becomes kind of serene. At that point, you don't feel scared. You just feel like this big giant overlooking the world and kind of ascending down. So,
okay. So question. Have you been parasailing?
I have been parasailing, and probably the craziest thing I've done is hang gliding. I've gone hang gliding in the Swiss Alps. So I used to be very risky.
That right there is, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to come back to the hang gliding, but I did parasailing in Aruba. And, Aruba, the island itself is not very large, right? Or it's not a huge island. So when you get up there, you can see clear to the other side. I only lasted about 60 seconds, though, because the wind was going. I was like, this is not going. I'm sending a smoke signal to bring me back down. So.
Wait, you told him to pull you in?
Girl, I gave them the signal. Reel me back in, okay? I will videotape everybody else, okay? But I cannot with this.
Well, you could say you did it. I am a licensed scuba diver. So I finished my certification actually in Aruba. And so when you do the certification, you have to do 50 feet underwater. You have to take your mask off, count for a minute, and put everything back on.
Oh, wow.
And and later that day, I thought it'd be a good idea to go parasailing, which is not recommended because that's a huge swing from being 50 feet underwater to like 100 feet in the air.
Yeah.
So I did it. One of the people I was with actually got kind of sick because you're not supposed to have that much of a swing. So,
but
do it
all at your own risk, people.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, let's go back. Let's talk about you. You brought up your dad earlier saying that he is a licensed skydiver. Let's talk about growing up. I know you grew up in the Bronx, and I would like to know, how was it growing up in the Bronx? Because I know people that live in New York, but I don't know people that were, born and bred in the Bronx. Talk about that story a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So, it's definitely... So I was born on 205th Street, and then we moved to Co-op City. At the time, Co-op City was a newer development in the Bronx, so it kind of wasn't as rough as it was when I moved in to when I moved out. Put it that way.
Okay.
But I would say it was different. One of the things that I'm thankful for with my daughter is I have an urban life. by having my office in Manhattan, but I'm able to give her more of that suburban life.
Yeah.
There's a lot more freedoms with it. I couldn't even go up the elevator 4 stories, to visit a friend unless my mom was in the elevator with me. So it definitely teaches you to be street smart.
Yeah.
First and foremost, which is underestimated, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, kind of teaches you a lot about just awareness of things and makes you a little tougher for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say I'm thankful for being able to grow up with so much diversity that I had.
Right.
Some of the things that you don't get as much in some of the suburbs. So
Yeah.
it was, give and take.
Okay, go back to childhood, think it through, and talk about like some of your favorite moments that because I know what you're talking about, living or raising your kids in the suburb versus being in the city. Because when we first moved here, Nate took me to the city and I was like, yeah, I can't raise my kids here. This is too much. But you do have those moments and those things that you appreciate. What were they for you in New York?
Yeah. I think it's always the accessibility of things. And even now, because we lived in Hoboken before we moved to out to more suburban life. And with my daughter, at such a young age, like she would come in with me sometimes on the subway. I mean, I was an entrepreneur before we were acquired. So I was taking her into the office with me on the PATH train, in a little harness at 1 year old. And you could just run around and you could do things, and I can just run and get my nails done, or I could go catch an exhibit at the museum, and everything's at our fingertips.
Yeah.
So much accessibility to things. And I do love not living in your car. That I had considered LA for a minute. I was like, I can't live in my car. I can't do this. So, so that aspect. And when you say Manhattan, as a whole, there's such a melting pot of culinary diversity and arts and fashion and retail and all of that. And so I say it now too, with my daughter, like I am mostly in the suburbs with her, but we brought her in to the office at the end of summer. And even then she missed it. Like she got her little fix, got to see that, took her to the Lego store, got to, and got to experience that energy. So those are some of the things that I think, you can't take for granted.
Yeah. How old is your daughter?
7.
She's 7. Okay, so there's still time. So I like, well, because I'm trying to figure out how to instill like the street smarts piece into my kids, right? Because they're living a different life than I have. And for example, my kid decided he's going to sell popcorn at school. So some kids are selling candy. He's selling popcorn at lunchtime, right? They got a little microwave, whatever. He let a kid 2 days in a row tell him, can I just pay you tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, sure. And gave him the popcorn. But, but it's little stuff where I'm like, dude, no, IOUs on a bag of popcorn. But again, that comes with being a little street savvy, So how, I know she's still young and you still have to even navigate through that. But how do you think would be like the best way to still teach her some street smarts? Because it is underrated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because my daughter asks a lot of questions whenever I bring her in. She's like, how come there's people sleeping on the street? Or how come we have to do this? Or how come, So I just try to instill little lessons,
Yeah.
So when she asks that she wants to buy Robux, for example, I say, well, you see how mommy, she goes into the city. She has to work. It takes effort. You have to budget that out. Yes, you could play Robux, but like, where is your next dollar coming from? So I try to get her to think that way a little bit. And I think it's just like pointing out the little lessons along the way because they're such sponges.
Yes.
Unless they don't want to hear you, which sometimes happens, but
that's like teenagers.
Yeah. But at the young age, they pick up everything so fast.
Yeah.
So fast. I'll tell you a funny story. I said to my daughter asked me one day, like, what did you want to be when you were growing up? And I had said, well, my dream. First, I thought I'd be a professional baseball player, but I wasn't very good. So I was like, that's not going to go very far. And then I said, I want to be an actress. I want to be a famous actress. And I said, that was my big dream. And that's when I first quit Wall Street and told her this whole story. And then a week later, I was like, I have to go see, and I got to get on a call. I have to do my work. She's like, I know, Mom, you have to do your not dream job.
And that's when they're listening. They're listening.
Yeah. Yes.
But then she said, but I know, you got to make that money. So, so they listen.
They definitely do. Let's talk about, since we're talking about Sienna, let's talk about how do you balance work and being a mom. And do you feel mom guilt?
Yes, for sure. Especially when I travel and I know her thresholds. Like if I'm taking a one night trip, she's like, see you later. But I know once I get into night 3, which is rare, I try to limit that. That's when she gets that anxiety, that separation anxiety. So I definitely feel it. And I try to remind myself that, as parents, we make very different kind of contributions to our kids' lives, and I try to be extra present when I am present. And she's my priority outside of probably my social life. Like it would be her, work, then family, then hanging out with friends. So, but I also think that I take the extra opportunities to expose her to things that I wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to expose her to. I take her to openings for store events, and I've taken her to conferences. One time I got to speak in Aruba, and they let me bring my daughter and my husband, and so I try to mix it together as much as I can, but also use that as opportunity to just expose her to different things as well, so it feels like fun for her.
That's actually really smart. So you don't completely separate them, because some people would just have to completely separate them. But I love that you incorporate, the family and her into it as well. And it does give her an opportunity to see what you're doing and understand it, on a better,
see mom in boss mode.
That's right. Exactly. And what about hubby? Does he feel like oh gosh, this is a lot. You're gone and I'm here. I have to play mom and dad right now.
Oh, yes. We're still trying to teach him that it is okay for him to brush her hair.
He said, get up and go. That's the best way.
He's like, I don't do those things. I'm like, it's a brush. You use it. So he's going to kill me when he sees this. But yeah, there's little things that, I just have to give him encouragement. But, like we only have one kid. So he gets his one-on-one time with her when I'm away too. And a bond between a mother and a daughter and a father is so different. Yes. So they get to have that different time,
Yeah.
It is special.
Yeah. So let's rewind just a little bit. 'Cause I know you talked about you starting in Wall Street. One, how did we get to Wall Street? And then what made you decide to pivot?
Yeah. So when I realized I was going to be an actress, I majored in marketing. And I actually was living in Spain my final year of school, my final semester, when most people should be interviewing, but it just worked out that way. And I remember, we'll back up. When I was trying to intern, I was very eager when I was in high school and all of that to just like make money. So I had some exposure to the financial industry because my mom worked at JP Morgan Chase. So I had gotten my first internship in the financial side. It wasn't the most exciting thing to me, to be honest. And from there, I decided to major in marketing, but continued in my ambition to always want to make money. So in college, I tried to get an internship my freshman year, and none of the marketing programs would take somebody who was only a freshman. And she was actually working at Lehman Brothers at the time. So she knew of a program they had, and I was able to get into that. And I worked at the repo and government trade desks at the time. And this was 20 plus years ago. So there was very few women at all on the trading floor. It was a very aggressive environment. And I actually cried after the first week, because I was like, this is a terrible place. Everybody yells at each other. I don't think, it just didn't feel amazing.
Were you actually trading?
I wasn't allowed to trade, but I was on the repo and government trade desk. Yeah. So I was supporting the traders. And it was definitely more of an administration role, booking the trades, but I didn't get to make the decisions. But I got to interact and learn from it.
Yeah, that exposure.
Yeah. And so my mom had said, it's okay. You don't have to go back if you don't like it. And I was like, I'm not going to quit. I just
needed a moment.
Yeah.
So I turned it around after that with a new mindset. And then it just clicked with me that I can make a lot of money at a young age. So maybe I should explore this. So I kept on that path. I was in fixed income. Then I moved into quantitative strategies. Then I moved over to equities. And I was doing well. And I'm not a math geek, but I comfortable in that environment, I guess is the way to say it. And then with equities, you're telling stories. You're telling the stories of the companies and pitching that to mutual funds and hedge funds. And so it was really the storytelling that I was falling in love with. But it wasn't fulfilling my soul. So I worked through 9/11. I worked through all the way, and then in 2009 when the market, was in tough times and tanked, I was like, this isn't my heart. I got to go. So, so I had a really great boss who was super supportive. He was promoting me in the same meeting. I asked him to fire me. We're still friends today. And then I said, I'm going to give myself 6 months and let's see what happens. I didn't really have a plan.
That is beautiful.
It is. And it sounds like you were even still able to sharpen your marketing skill set too. Because I know when you were just explaining like, I had to sell companies essentially, or tell a company's story to these mutual funds. That's you like marketing those companies, right? So you were still like using that skill set.
No, absolutely. And I think people always ask me like, how'd you end up where you are? Because it wasn't expected. I just kind of fell into an opportunity, and it took me a long time to figure out why I liked it. Like, why is it easy for me to wake up every day to do what I'm doing? It wasn't that dream job when I was a little girl, but it was that perfect balance of being able to bring my business acumen with working with creatives all the time and helping them bring that story forward in physical space. This is like a happy accident.
Let's talk about that. Okay, because I had this conversation with my boys. I try to tell them, you don't have to have it all figured out. If you just work hard, like the right doors will open when they're supposed to. Like it's, there's no perfect path. It's like, I feel like God always aligns us and opens up doors as we go. And I hear that in your story, which is like, okay, you were like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to work hard at it. And then then it opened up a door to the next thing. So I think that's a great lesson, for a lot of people to really understand, Although you knew it wasn't your heart, you stayed with it for as long as you could, and then you're like, all right, on to the next thing, So.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't know in the moment. So, like those are good lessons for your boys, because I can't say I knew along the way all the time.
Right.
It took maturity and me to allow myself these pauses. Sometimes especially as an entrepreneur, you could just feel like so beaten down.
Yeah.
And then I would always step back and be like, okay, I'm going to pause. What did I learn from this? What can I pull forward? What do I like leave behind me? And there's always something to pull forward, right? And I think that's where your path continues.
I love that. So true. I know there's so many women that want to know, okay, how did you end up in the space of retail where you deal with the creative side and the money side combined? Let's talk about that.
In the beginning, it was, there was a family who owned real estate in Manhattan, and they said, we have these street level storefronts. We want to do something creative with you. Do you want to partner with us? So we didn't really have a plan. And it was me spending time with a lot of these designers. In the beginning, it was all fashion. It was all these designers who, they were turning to Etsy, or they had just done their first runway show and they didn't know what to do next. So it was really helping them think about it from a business standpoint. And then utilizing this physical space. I always say to them, your store is your story. So it was really kind of leaning into both, because they were at a place where they understood why they launched their brand, or they understood why this was the fabric they were picking, or the aesthetic that they wanted, and who their muses were and everything like that. But it didn't know how to make it a business, or how to think about, well, how much do I invest in the store, and how do I operationalize it, and how do I think about return on investment, and how do I paint a picture of my growth? So that part was still exciting, and I was helping them shape that and think through that, while also pulling forward, like, okay, and then let's balance it out. Like, what is the 3D manifestation of your brand, of your story? If you're bringing it into these textile objects, but let's bring it into a full environment. Was this before or after you created Lionesque? This is how it was born.
Okay, this is how it was born. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, this is how it was born. And we did our first pop-up store for a brand called NFP, New Form and Perspective. She's out of Beacon, New York, and she had just done her first runway event. And this was in fall of 2009. And then I think it was fall 2010 We had a collective. We had Laquan. We had Telfar. We had all these people doing their first pop-ups. And they were all just starting, and that was really, it was exciting because we had this revolving storefront that brands would pop in and out of. And I remember standing outside one day, just observing. And these people walked from their office like, this is that cool place where new brands come all the time. And I was like, we're giving this to people.
Yes.
That was like me being a storyteller, it's fun.
That is awesome. So tell us, what exactly is Lioness? Are you all opening new stores? Are you doing just like retail activations? Like what is that? What is it exactly?
Sure. Yeah. So the Lioness Group, we are strategists, experiential designers, and project managers. So we'll take you from the call of I want to have a store all the way to doors open. Okay. And now through the acquisition of MG2, which is a global design and architecture firm, the Lionesque is a studio within the company with our niche is really that we work with these fast-growing digital natives, direct-to-consumer brands that are going into physical for the first time and helping them as a partner, really as an extension of their team, figuring out what all of that means. And then it evolved to bigger brands and retailers like a Nordstrom who said, we have to think different about physical. So we help them with Nordstrom Local, different economics. There's no inventory. You order ahead. It's buy online, pick up in store. And so, how do they think different? They wanted to think more like a digital native, and so those would be two of our main types of clients. And then, as being part of MG2, we'll partner with other offices and studios depending on what kind of subject matter expertise they want to bring into their projects.
Okay, you have to tell us your favorite project that you've done. That was like, it just spoke to your heart in some way.
I know. Well, because you said spoke to your heart, I'm going to say Penguin Random House.
Okay.
So Penguin Random House, what most people didn't realize, and this was 2016, because Sienna was still a baby. It was like one of my big trips after I had her. And people don't realize that when Borders closed doors, San Juan was their top grossing market in North America.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there was a big gap in the market for access to books for people in Puerto Rico. And so I knew the Penguin Random House Labs team. So they were charged with bringing innovative technology to the publishing company. And so they said, let's partner and do an experiment. What would it be like if we powered a local distributor to kind of have this endless access to books? Because Amazon also wasn't Amazon
yet.
Yet, and definitely not in Puerto Rico. There's no same day delivery. Okay, so we worked with them and said, okay, well, how do we bring Penguin Random House to Puerto Rico that feels very local and is, makes sense to the community, but also integrates technology in a way that made sense for the audience also. And so we helped them with everything from, we designed the space, we helped build out the space, and we helped them with the technology development in the space. Immersive, fun stuff, like you could pick your favorite book and kind of insert yourself into the cover and project it to the front of the store and post it on socials. Or you could do quizzes on laptops, on iPads, and kind of find your own adventure, and it would recommend all these books that you would like based on that quiz that you took, and you'd have access to order those books. So full spectrum.
I love that.
But the reason it'll sit in my heart was because when we opened doors, the mayor came, all the media wanted to cover it. And then it was from an audience standpoint, everybody from 16 to like 80. So excited to have books.
Yeah.
And it just it was so touching because we helped facilitate that. And I also was like, if we opened this in New York, you would not get the same reception. So it was nice to see people care about reading again. But we were helping figure out something that was a big void in the market, and it was a big gap for the people that live there.
Yeah.
That is amazing. You have to share pictures of the event with us so we can drop it in the video so everyone can see. But that is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk about, you're just all that you are. So you are this entrepreneur, this hardworking woman. And then let's talk about your Hispanic heritage. I feel like there's just all of these layers to who you are. When did you feel like some of those things that you now look at as like, this is who I am as a strong suit, did you feel like when you were younger that it inhibited or it made you feel like you weren't enough being around all these males, dominating in that space?
For sure. Yeah. It came in spectrums.
Okay.
I surprisingly didn't feel as inhibited as a female when I was on Wall Street. Even though it was male dominated, I was just very fortunate to be in groups or trading desks of people who kind of saw me more as like a sister. So there was a lot of support. Okay. But I did feel it more as a Hispanic woman. And one of my memories is, I was called Mexican, and I said, well, I'm actually Puerto Rican. And they were like, it's all the same. And I was like, we're a different, it's a totally different country.
Mm-hmm. Right? Know your geography.
So there's definitely, that ignorance in there where you kind of learn to, I feel sorry for them that that's the way they think versus myself. But I did feel it more in the retail, actually, which is surprising. If you would, so many of these, so much of the brands and retailers like that we work with, their target demographic is women. But a lot of the people they hire and a lot of the people in the positions of power are men. There's actually a gap in that lens they should have for their target consumer. And I'll go head to head with any of them because I have 4 brothers and I came from Wall Street, and I'm kind of like, I'll hold my own in a male dominated industry, but I shouldn't have to feel that way. Right. And I think that we've taken a lot of steps where there's definitely a lot more camaraderie with females, but for a long time, I think it was competitive amongst females. So we weren't kind of having each other's back and taking each other under our wings as much as we could have. I think it's gotten better over the past, 5 years, but it wasn't like that in day one when I made the transition.
Started. So I'm glad that you spoke about that, and there was actually a question I was gonna bring up in a second, but let me go ahead and do it. So congratulations on being named to the 2022 Women's Wear Daily 25 Most Inspirational Women. But what when I was going through the interview you did with them, you spoke, they asked, what's the skill set that young leaders need to have? And your response was to pay it forward. So the question was going to be if you could speak more about that, but I'm glad you just brought it up in the sense of like, we come into these different spaces where we should be the leaders anyway. Like, we're your audience. I don't know why women wouldn't be in the majority of the leadership positions anyway. But when you get into this space, you don't even look out for the sister next to you, almost crab in a barrel mindset. But how much more important it is for you to pay it forward and to bring people under your wings. Can you speak about that more?
Yeah, and I would say I think that's something that comes from my heritage. My mom would always say to me, we climb and we lift. And if I think about, my family's background, my great grandma came here with dollars, and opened her first restaurant in the Bronx. And, we have a lot of entrepreneurs in our family. My cousin's an author, and I have another one who's a hairstylist. And, we have very supportive, my aunts, and, we have a text chain. Everybody's got each other's back, and we rally for each other. We congratulate each other. We buy each other's products, and that's the mindset that I try to bring forward to me. And I was fortunate, my mom was able to successfully elevate herself, even though she didn't come from much. And, she always tells me when I was born, her message to me was like, her goal in life is to give me more than she had. And so that will be my goal for my daughter. But I shouldn't limit that just to my nucleus. Like that's how I should, think about creating opportunities for others. And I think having lived some of those moments where it wasn't comfortable to be in the room, or I felt like I had to put out my elbows to be in the room, I wouldn't want another female to feel that way, female or male, right? I don't want anybody, but just knowing that that's, we have to lean in a little bit more for other women, right? To make a difference.
It's so true. What advice would you give someone that's, I guess they're trying to figure it out and they're maybe leaning into the retail career and trying to figure out what to do? And what advice would you have for them if you look back on your journey?
Yeah. I mean, I think figure out what you love and are most passionate about, because you have to have passion for it. I mean, it's it's an ever evolving industry, and there's definitely challenges with it, but also know the difference of what you love from a like a career standpoint versus a hobby. You know what I mean? Because not everything that you think you like, you actually want to do every day as your job. So that would be one. And I think if you're taking an entrepreneur path, you know, really do the soul searching of what your strengths are, but also be comfortable with identifying your weaknesses, because that is one of your biggest strengths, is if you know where you're not the strongest, because then you're going to surround yourself with the people that have all of those attributes ideally, right?
So good.
And then together, you know, you'll create that team. And in the beginning, I was good at doing that when I created my advisory board, but it took me a while to learn the skill to do it as far as how I built my team. You kind of are a matrix that you're creating together, right? So it's just like understanding if they shine in the areas that you don't, you're going to. So
That's good. That's great advice. Great advice. I love that, Melissa. Okay. So we got to talk about one more thing. We want to talk about retail trends. What should we expect coming up?
Oh, boy. Firstly, you're definitely going to see more technology. And I know, you know, everybody's looking at how it's happening in Nike, you know, with how their stores are evolving. And, you know, if you go to the flagship, you could shop off your phone and you can integrate with the app and you could put everything you like in your shopping cart. Everything. I just, on my podcast, I just had a CEO of a company called Volumental, and it takes 4 minutes. They scan your foot and they tell you exactly what your perfect size fit is. That's the kind of stuff that we're going to start to see more when it comes to that. And I think
Volume Fit, is that the technology Nike has? Or like,
you know, I don't know if they might white label it. I don't know if Nike makes their own. I'm not sure if they do Nikes, but
I just remember
those would be like
the metal ones, the black and big silver, and you put your foot in there and they're like, stand up all the way, don't move. And they're like trying to tell you your width, and you're, oh gosh, I'm dating myself. I'm dating myself.
No, but that's the thing. A lot of it's catching up, where it's going to be, you know, did you see the new Fenty stores? And they merged with Fit Match, and they'll do a whole body scan and they'll tell you exact fit.
Wait a minute, let me look up a location for that. Is that the New York area?
They're expanding locations, so I'm sure it will be soon. Yeah.
Okay, that is awesome.
Okay, so we got technology. We have the scan of the body for clothing as well. And are those the top two? Is there one more you can think of?
Yeah, I think the other thing is just a lot more of our clients, you know, brands are just thinking different, you know, because of the pandemic. You shop online so much more easily now, right?
Yes.
Especially if it's Amazon. So everybody's rethinking what's the purpose of the store. So if you go to the extreme, like Dick's Sporting Goods, they have new stores called Public Lands, and it's all about you rock climbing and miniature golf and
giving an experience.
And having an experience.
Experiential. I love that.
Yeah. And
That's
so
really
many, and when they're opening those stores, they're actually getting more foot traffic in those stores than they do in their flagships, proving that this is kind of what people are craving. If you're going to get out of the house, you want to have an experience, and you're getting immersed in the product in a different way. And you might not need climbing shoes every time you go climb that rock wall, but guess what? The next time you need them, you're going to think of Dick's, because that's where you have that great experience.
That's so true.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I thought this is what ticked me off about Toys R Us closing. So I am a Toys R Us kid. I love it even during the holiday season. Like, I love when they went 24 hours and I could go, you know, late at night, roam the stores, try toys, figure out what I wanted to give and gift and things like that. And I think that was a downfall to the toy store and the toy store experience is it was not an experience, right? So like when you think about, like you just used the example of Dick's with the rock climbing activity that people can do when they do that. I feel like Toys R Us would have been a little more successful if they had pivoted into like a full-on play space where the kids get to experience the toys, but then they also can go around here and purchase them as well.
No, absolutely. And between them and the Disney store, I just blows my mind with Disney stores. Like, they are the most successful content creators, and then their stores are just products on a shelf. But Camp's a good response to that. I don't know if either one of you have been to a camp store. If not, right now their theme is Encanto, and it's like you go into the world of Encanto and you can experience the village and and the I don't know if they brought it back but pre-pandemic. Well, there's one in Hudson Yards in Manhattan. There's one in Chelsea, Flatiron on Fifth Avenue. I know there's one in Westchester, but they're expanding locations. Okay. And they used to in Hudson Yards, I don't know if they brought it back, but pre-pandemic, you could drop your kid off for up to 90 minutes and they will watch your child while you shop at the mall.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was going to say that Toys R Us should have done. They should have took advantage of, hey, let your kid play with these toys in here. Drop them off here and you get a little bit of time to shop. Like, come on, Toys R Us, we're trying to help y'all out.
And then when you come back, to pick up your kid, they're going to be like, Mom, I want this thing, this thing, this thing, this, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So true. All right, y'all heard it here. We know what's coming up next. Now you can shop early for Christmas, right?
Yes, take your kids to camp.
Exactly. One more question on that same front, though. So you have these creators with the desire to go into retail, right? Or go into a brick and mortar space. How are you helping them navigate that space given like the current economic climate, right? So everybody keeps hearing the recession is on the horizon, prices are going up, et cetera. Like how do you, how have you been like instructing your clients and stuff to pivot with that notion in the back of your head?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because we actually came out of the pandemic with people being hesitant, but the reality was because everybody went online, it actually became much more expensive to compete online than it ever had been in the past, right? Okay. So when you first launch and you have this really targeted group of people, you can do really targeted ads, but as you grow as a company, it becomes much more competitive, a lot more expensive. And then Facebook changed their rules and a lot of brands who were relying on their ads, that was working against them as well. So they had to find places to pivot. So what I kind of help them with is think about the store serves more than the purpose of selling goods. Like it's important. But let's make sure that we're measuring the impact it has on customer lifetime value. Because on average, with our clients, when they open a store, the Real was an example of this. MGemi, Carbon 38. They had these coveted audiences online. And so they couldn't wait to meet these brands in person. And a hybrid shopper, on average, was spending almost 3 times more than somebody who was only interacting with them online. So think about the opportunity of that to really unlock those super consumers and fans and people who are going to be evangelists for you, and then figure out a way to kind of track that so that you're understanding that the ROI isn't just sales during doors open. It was really how it was elevating the brand and the awareness and drawing higher customer lifetime value.
It's good to know. So there's going to be a lot of, I think, pop-up Christmas, experiences. A lot of people coming in, touching and feeling and playing. I have a feeling this season. I look forward to that. It doesn't make it special, you know.
It does. I think people are still craving it. We did a pop-up on the High Line for Victoria's Secret in May, and it was the highest foot trafficked pop-up they ever did on the HighLine. And I think it was a testament of this. People are craving it. And it was a week long, and we had 4 wedding engagements happen because they loved the setting.
Wow.
Is the High Line that next to that school? What's the name of that school?
It's by the Whitney Museum, but it spans like I don't
you
even
go
know how many
up
blocks
the stairs,
at this point.
and there's those new. What's the new? There's new apartments that have popped up over there too.
It's like above the city almost.
It's kind of in the city.
Yes,
it's like like right inside the building. So you can literally be on the High Line and looking into people's windows and seeing what they're eating for breakfast.
Yeah, no,
or
that's
getting
weird.
dressed. That is so weird.
Well, we had some people do some weird shows during Build It. I believe there was a nudist, but it's New York.
There's always one.
I'm trying to get the location because I remember years ago watching a documentary about a private school that was getting put in the inner city somewhere in New York. I know it's Manhattan, but it was like this juxtaposition because it was right across the street from like projects.
Oh,
but it was like this super wealthy school.
I think you're talking about Stuyvesant Town. You might be talking about Stuyvesant, but I think
maybe. But I think it was near the High Line. For whatever reason, that sounds familiar.
Okay, let's mix it up a little bit. We're going to play this game. It's called This, That, and the Other. And we're basically going to give you a this or that. You can choose one. And if it's the other, it's a fill in the blank. So you ready?
Yes.
It's easy. It'll be fun.
Yes.
All right. First one is Giants or Jets?
I know. I have to say Jets just because childhood. But we're a Giants household, but I'm Jets.
All right. You toe the line a little bit.
Yeah.
What about Yankees or Mets?
Yankees.
All right. Okay.
Yes. It's a fight in the house also.
Favorite present or past NFL player?
Ooh, I'm gonna be. I am present. I would say Saquon because Penn State and doing some good stuff for the Giants.
That's awesome. If you can play one sport right now, I already know this answer. What would it be?
Are you thinking baseball? Make that dream come true.
Just, hey, you guys, let Melissa throw out a ball. I think that would like
just one
make your
time.
yes, just throw it out. I
Do
love
a first
it.
pitch.
Just that
That
one
would
pitch.
be awesome. Which season is the easiest to be fashionable in?
Ooh. I'm gonna say. Ooh, I might say fall.
Yes.
You know, it's that good transitional. You can have layers. You're not. Yeah, I'm gonna say fall.
Agreed. Tell me your favorite designer.
Ooh, right now I'm having a current obsession with Ula Johnson. Sometimes she can go a little poofy, but yeah, I have a girl crush for sure.
Nice. What is the most uncomfortable material to wear?
Oh, depends like what body part, I guess. But the first, yeah, maybe mesh, like a little mesh. Yeah, get a little itchy.
Okay, here's a tough one. Well, probably not for you. Are you a planner or a winger?
Ooh, I'm a planner.
Okay.
But I'm not but I can wing in tough situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the New
You
York
got to
in
be
you.
flexible.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's one of your biggest regrets?
Oh man, one of my biggest regrets. My biggest regret maybe would be taking, I don't know. Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know. I can't think of a specific example, but I would say on average, like just some of the things that I paused on trying because I just think I couldn't and just not trying, you know? And I don't have a particular one, but it took me a while to just realize like it's okay if it's not perfect. Just try it.
Yeah.
Try
It's
it,
okay to fail.
you know?
Like there's so many lessons in failure. Either
for
way.
sure. Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay. Tell me what's on your bucket list.
Well, I want to go to the Maldives. Were you posting that? Like, I want to stay on one of those little houses in the water.
Let me tell you something. It is the best experience. People always said, I'm like, what's the big deal? It's a beach. I'm telling you, it is everything. Definitely do it. And definitely, because you typically stop in Dubai, spend a couple days in Dubai and then go. Or even on the way back. But I'm telling you, you will absolutely love it.
Yeah. So that's going to be on my, there's a conference next year that's in Dubai. And I was joking. I was like, I feel like maybe I need to go to that conference. So
Yeah.
I'll put that together.
Well, look,
That's
we all need to go to
smart.
that conference. What's the name of it?
Real talk. Okay. And last but not least, if people want to get a hold of you, where do they find Melissa Gonzalez?
Sure. Yeah. I'm on Instagram, Mel Styles. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty active on both. So that's probably the easiest way to find me. If you search for Melissa Gonzalez on LinkedIn, there's a lot of us. So I would put in the word Lionesque in there, and then you'll find me.
Awesome. I'll make sure to put links to all of her contact, where you can find her in the show notes as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Melissa, and congratulations on all your successes. Like there's a list. I mean, if you guys just check her out. There's so many things I couldn't even say that she's done. She's so amazing and so inspirational. So we thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks so
thank
much
you.
for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. I love what you ladies are doing too. So I've been watching behind the scenes. So
We appreciate you as well.
Yeah, Melissa was dope.
Yes, she's so great. I just think I love the fact that she was not afraid to just go after it, go out there and try so many different things until she figured out what exactly she wanted to do and she found it. So very inspirational for sure.
Absolutely. And like we said with her, I think it's dope that that this is even a company, right? Like, because you don't think about the team behind the team, you know, the team that's actually launching the stores, making sure you walk in and this is this user-friendly experience. Like, that's awesome. I know you said you heard her speak a few times too, Toya.
Yeah, she's a great speaker. She does it all. You know, she used to work with the New York Fashion Week. Because of all the different experiences that she's had on the fashion side, on the creative side, and even on the business side, I just feel like if anyone ever wants to reach out and pick her brain and ask her, she's the person because she's brilliant. She has all these different layers to her, which is pretty cool. All right. Well, that's our show. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow us at Inside Lines Podcast on both Instagram and Facebook.
And like we say it every week. If y'all have questions, comments, asking for a friend, questions, leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/insidelines. And make sure you check out our website, insidelinespodcast.com, where you can listen and share your favorite episodes.
If you guys don't want to comment, give us a call on speakpipe.com. You got to either call us or you got to comment now. Come on.
Look, they be sending us texts on the side.
Or like comment,
leave us a SpeakPipe voicemail.
Or give us exactly one or the other. We're asking, and don't forget to rate us. Rate Inside Lines. Let us know what you love about us. Give us those 5 stars and let us know. We really, really, really appreciate it. So, thanks again, Melissa,
and thank you guys for listening.
Holla.